You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Engle here with TGI Sports Talk's College Sports Huddle. Focus on basketball and still a little bit of football. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Been a few weeks since we've been on with this show with vacation and some work stuff last Wednesday, so I'm happy to be back. We'll catch up on all the college basketball. There's a little bit of college football news, which we'll get into. But I want to welcome everybody watching tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're live on the Roku channel, the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. Will be shared later on, and a lot of groups will be shared later on in the platforms I just mentioned. You can watch this show anytime, so we welcome those who watch it later. And we thank the groups that allow us to share it. John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities, Flo and the gang over at Bottom Line Sports, Let's Talk Sports, where Flo and the gang do their podcasting. Who else is with the college basketball stuff? All you college basketball groups, the college groups itself, all the podcast groups out there. We found a lot of great podcast groups that let us share and is really driving the audience, so we love that. Quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff out of Pittsburgh, specifically the Sports Corner. On Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I was a guest there yesterday. You can check replay on my Facebook page as well, the TGI Sports Talk page, and check out Ralph and join his group as well on Facebook and YouTube. Ralph's got a lot of great stuff going on over there. DDH, thumbs up to you. This Friday, by the way, we'll be back on our 9 a.m. one-on-one show, but this week it's the last Friday of the month. And as I stated before I went on vacation, the last Friday of the month now we'll still have Jim Beringer on. We're doing a little bit of one-on-one, catching us up on hockey. We'll talk the Four Nations tournament and, closing in on the Stanley Cup playoff situation and lots of other stuff. But we also have the sound off portion where you guys can pop in and sound off about anything you want to sound off about, and Jim will partake in that as well. What else? And the MLB update. We'll be back with everything this week, and of course the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. We're going to get into the polls today. There's a lot of volatility going on in basketball. Purdue, Marquette, Kansas, all in free fall before the conference tournaments even get started. St. John's red hot, Michigan State hot, Clemson firing up the ACC, as is Louisville. Penny Hardaway and Memphis have been on a fire a bit. And then you got, the SEC may break a record for teams getting in the tournament this year. The Big Ten is going to have a bunch. The Big 12 will have a bunch. And the ACC is really down. They could have as little as 3 teams in. UNC may not be one of them. Right now, they're on the outside looking in. We'll look at the bracketology and where people stand right now, what the number 1 seeds are today, who the teams on the bubble are today. And we're talking about UNC. I'm surprised. Hubert Davis got himself a contract extension through 2030. Now, Hubert Davis had a surprise run to this Final Four his first year, and it's been a bit of a struggle, except for maybe 2 years ago. He had one good year in the last 3. This year's been an up and down season, like a lot of teams out there. So he gets his extension. Who else? Coach May at Michigan Dusty May gets an extension at Michigan his first year there. He's turned them around from a horrendous year last year to having a great year going forward here this year. Let me just check something out here. And they want to make sure that he does not skip town and go to Indiana, which is his alma mater. He was a team manager there when Bobby Knight was the coach. And we are not live for whatever reason on, I hate that, Facebook. It's knocking our audience down again. I'm going to try something here real quick on the Facebook thing. Bear with me a second. So Dusty May gets himself a nice extension, and we'll see whether that plays out. Listen, Michigan's going to be tough out in the Big Ten tournament. He's really turned that team around, and where Indiana goes from here, Dusty May would have been at the top of their list. Timing's everything. If they'd fired Mike Woodson last year, then he probably would have been looking at potentially. I think I removed the wrong one. We're going to try it again. Dusty may be the Indiana coach, and we may be looking at a totally different story in the Big Ten right now. So bear with me while I add this destination back. So also in the Big Ten, by the way, kudos to Tom Izzo since we've been gone. He has broken Bob Knight's Big Ten record for victories. So congratulations to him, and we wish him all the best going forward. Michigan State playing really good basketball right now. And Izzo has a way of doing very well in the month of March. So let's see if we came back up now. Let's see what happens. Let me hit refresh. And now we're live. Nice. Okay, good. All right, perfect. Maybe our audience will pick up a little bit now. So I apologize for that. Again, we have a little trouble with Facebook and getting it to stream in the timeline. And if you guys are watching and you're ever going to TGI Sports Talk and you don't see it live when I'm live in the timeline, just go to my profile picture. You'll see it live. Click on that and it brings you to the show. People don't know that, though. Oh, what else is going on in the world of college sports? New Orleans and Fresno State. Signs of the day. Sports leagues, especially college leagues, getting into bed with gamblers, tying themselves to DraftKings and the like. And we got two more scandals brewing. We've had college baseball scandals. We had Temple being investigated last year. Some other players in the NBA have been investigated for fixing games or point shaving or performance shaving, whatever you want to call what we're looking at. But now you got New Orleans and Fresno State, both with issues going on at the same time right now. Not a good situation, guys. Really bad situation. By the way, speaking of some games going on right now, Michigan State is playing Maryland. At Maryland, they're up 19-10. Number one, Auburn has got Ole Miss, who's fallen out of the top 25. They're up 15-7 early. In the other game, Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. Vanderbilt, Ole Miss. These are teams likely on the bubble. Right now, they're losing Vanderbilt 8-7. And Clemson up 17-10 over a disappointing Notre Dame team right now. So we'll keep an eye on those games later. Looking around the league, the world of college basketball. Since we left, it's still Auburn on the top. And when I left, they had 60 votes in the AP poll. They have 60 votes again. One loss since that time, I believe. Duke just lost the other night for the first time since Thanksgiving to Clemson. Actually, a week or so ago now. But they're still number 2. No first place votes. Florida, number 3, but just got knocked off by Georgia. It'll be interesting to see whether that win over a top 3 Florida team propels Georgia closer to a bid. Right now, they would be on the outside looking in. Houston and Kelvin Sampson are sitting at 4. Tennessee at 5. Those spots haven't changed a whole lot since I left. Alabama at 6. St. John's is now at 7. After, they've lost about 1 game in the last 3 months, too. Iowa State coming in at 9. Texas Tech at 10. Wisconsin at 11. A&M drops a lot down to number 12. Clemson all the way up to 13 this week. Clemson a little bit different. They normally have started out well, maybe struggled a little bit more in conference play and towards the end of the season. This year, they seem to be hitting a different gear. Missouri has hit a little bit of hard time. They are bouncing back a little bit. They're still 20-7 and ranked 14. Michigan, we just talked about with Dusty May getting his extension. They're at 15. Have dropped a few spots. Maryland playing tonight, as we said, against Michigan, or Michigan State, excuse me, is up to 16. So Big Ten looking at a pretty good haul here come tournament time. Kentucky, listen, we talked about earlier in the show, I mentioned Kansas being in free fall, which we'll talk about in a second. Purdue's been in a free fall. Kentucky, who got off to a great start under Mark Pope, now has not played well in the last month, maybe month plus. They're 18-9. They've fallen all the way to 17. Not sure they're in danger of missing the tournament, but this team can't afford to flame out these last 2 weeks of the regular season and be an early exit in the SEC tournament. Memphis playing better basketball in the AAC, now at 22-5 under Penny Hardaway. Louisville with a bullet up to 19. Purdue drops 7. Marquette drops 5 down to 20-21. Shaka Smart's team has struggled as well since the turn of the calendar. Arizona drops 3. St. Mary's, team to watch out for in March. Experienced, really good guard play, really good defensive team. If they can put the ball in a bucket enough, watch out for St. Mary's potentially making a deep run into this tournament. Mississippi State, 24, BYU 25. Dropping out this week, Kansas has now won 2 in a row since then. And Ole Miss at 24 drop out as well. Just missing right now, Creighton actually is ahead of Ole Miss, and Kansas as the next team up. Listen, it's not pretty out there, and we're going to take a look right now. Bracketology. Danny Fuller's with us tonight. Hello, Danny. Good to see you. Crowd is picking up. Don't be afraid to comment. We'll talk about anything you want to chat about on the show tonight. It regards college basketball, college football. Melinda's watching us from National Streaming Sports on the Roku channel tonight. As I said, get those National Streaming Sports Roku channels downloaded. It's a free download for now, guys. It won't be forever, I'm sure. Get it now. All you got to do is go to your Roku device. If you got a smart TV, you probably got Roku on it. If you don't have a Roku stick, right? Roku stick, you put in your TV, search for the National Streaming Sports Network, and you'll be able to download that show and see lots of great content. 7 days a week, nearly 24 hours a day. We get shows that go into the early hours. We repeat all these shows. All my shows, I believe, now are live. We'll go off here at 8 o'clock, but you'll see the full show on Saturday morning. But all our other shows are live, as well as lots of other great content from early morning right through the evening hours. So enjoy that. Looking at the tournament right this minute, as we speak, the number 1 seeds would be Duke and Auburn, obviously, Alabama and Florida. This is Joe Lunardi from the ESPN. I'm not sure about Alabama. I'm not sure about Florida after losing to Georgia the other night. Hello, Ralph Williams. We mentioned Ralph from RW Media. I was on with Ralph and Smoking Jim Frazier on the Sports Corner yesterday. That's on live on Facebook and YouTube and other venues every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Ralph does some great stuff. We had some fun with him and Smoking Jim yesterday. So I'm not so sold on Alabama and Florida at the moment. I'm going to say that Auburn and Duke, I think, are virtual locks for a number 1 seed in one of the regions. But I think the other 2 seeds, you're going to have Florida in play. Houston's in play. I think Houston gets us one of those seeds, by the way. Tennessee and Houston, by the way, the first team other than Kansas to win the Big 12 regular season title back-to-back this year. Kelvin Sampson's done a great job there. Some really good stuff being done out there. Tennessee's going to have a chance. Alabama, who's Lunardi's got there now, is alive. St. John's and Rick Pitino, do not count this team out. the Florida, Tennessee, and Alabama can't all be number one seeds. I don't think two of them can be. I think one of those teams gets a one seed, so the other ones are going to be up for grabs. Let's just say we got Houston, St. John's, Michigan State. Iowa State, outside chance if they were to beat Houston and win that Big Ten tournament championship. Yes, Ralph, I think I gave you Mac's number at National Streaming Sports. Linda's on here right now watching, and you can certainly, Ralph, I know, would like to talk to Linda and Mac about streaming his shows. Ralph's got a lot of really good content to put up, so make that connection. If you haven't texted Mac yet with that number, Ralph, please do so. Anyway, back to the bracketology part of our show. So those are the number one seeds. The bubble watch to kind of keep an eye on. Right now, the last four teams in would be Nebraska. Again, this is Lenardi. Nebraska, Oklahoma, who I'm not sold on. Arkansas, a little bit of a surprise. Calipari's team playing a little bit better, struggled early this year. And Wake Forest. The last four buys, so those last four teams are going to play in the first four and have to play their way in. West Virginia, Texas, San Diego State, and Ohio State would be the last four buys, so they'd be 11 seeds, I believe. First four out, North Carolina. I agree. Right now, this team is not tournament bound without some big kick here. The end of the regular season and in the ACC tournament. The ACC is looking at, they could have as few as three teams in this tournament. Right now, Lenardi's got them with four. We'll look at the standings here in just a little bit and talk more about that. Indiana, Mike Woodson on his way out. Be a nice going away president if they were to make the tournament. I think they got a long ways to go. They're going to struggle in the Big Ten tournament. SMU, really good year in the ACC this year. I think this team is in, and either Arkansas or Oklahoma is out right now. Xavier in the Big East. I don't know that I would drop one of those teams for them yet. Boise State, Georgia with that big win over Florida might boost their profile a little bit. George Mason, Villanova. Villanova is going to need to go deep in the Big East tournament to get considered. Whoa! I don't know what we got here, but we wish you well there, my friend. I can't leave all that whole thing up. I'm sorry. And I can see from the comments that you're certainly having some issues. And we certainly hope that listen, we'll pray for you and keep you in our good thoughts. It's just a lot to kind of bring up there. I certainly hope you're doing well and keep you in our good thoughts. Sonia Pearson, good to see you tonight, watching and sharing. We always appreciate that. All things football from a lady's perspective. Catch her stuff. She does a lot of stuff. She'll be on tonight. Ready for a Big Ten shakeup? What are we looking at? A Big Ten shakeup, Sonia. What's your opinion of a Big Ten shakeup? Let me take a look at the Big Ten, since we're going to jump over to the conferences right now and talk about some teams that may surprise in conference play. Michigan State and Michigan are the class right now, I think, of the Big Ten. Played well. Dusty May's done a tremendous job. No, thank you, Sonia. Dusty May's done a great job at Michigan, turning around a mess that Juwan Howard left behind. They inked him to an extension, as we talked about earlier in the show, to make sure he didn't look to leave after a year and pursue that Indiana job, his alma mater. Dusty May did a great job at Florida Atlantic. He's doing a great job at Michigan. They're going to be a force in this postseason. Watch out. This is a tournament-tested coach. And it's going to – what you need in a tournament, and that's why I like St. Mary's as a dark horse. We'll talk more about them in the coming weeks. They're going to win the regular season. They swept Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference. And they've got great guard play. They're experienced, which really matters in a tournament. You saw it a couple of years ago with Florida Atlantic. You saw it with some other teams recently. The mid-majors have a real chance in a tournament these days because kids stick around. You saw Villanova did that with Jay Wright. They've lost it now with Neptune, unfortunately, and he's probably going to lose his job because of it. They've gotten away from that, chasing 5-star athletes and looking for the really good 3- and 4-star guys who will be there for 4 years. That's why Jay Wright was really good, because he had good, experienced teams when it came to tournament time. Back to the Big Ten. Wisconsin, who struggled a bit recently, will make the tournament. Maryland will make the tournament. UCLA's played better than you think in their first go-round in the Big Ten. They got off to a great start, struggled in the middle of the season, starting to play better, really, since Mitch Cronin ripped them. I know that not Ralph, Danny Fuller out there in L.A. is not a huge Mitch Cronin fan. But the Bruins, who are unranked still, I'm a little surprised they're unranked. They're going to make the NCAA tournament. Purdue, who's got a bag of rocks tied around their neck right now, they're going to make the tournament. Painter's a great coach. This team's a bit undermanned, though. Illinois fighting huge injury issues. A big loss to Duke. I think the worst loss in maybe program history in Madison Square Garden a couple weekends ago. Only 10-8 in the conference, 18-11. This team was rolling early and has fallen on hard times. Oregon kind of on the bubble, probably in today. Again, this could change. Teams to watch here in the tournament. I'm really a strong believer. If you don't win the tournament, you ought not be getting in if you're under 500 in your conference. Indiana under 500, Nebraska, Ohio State, 7-9, 7-10, 7-10. Nebraska's probably in a tournament if it started today. Ohio State's probably in a tournament if it started today. I'm not a fan. I'd rather see the second place team in some of these mid-majors get in rather than a team that can't finish 500 in conference. I talk about this year after year after year. Got a couple more. It's going to be super competitive in the Big Ten. Listen, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC, these leagues are so deep. You could have coaches in trouble. Iowa with Fran McCaffrey, he's been there 15 or 16 years now. Probably on his way out without a big run here in the tournament, the Big Ten tournament, because it's the only way he's getting in the big tournament if he wins that. Watch out. These are Rutgers, a team that should be better than what they are. Watch out for them to make a run in the Big Ten. I'm not saying they're going to do that. You want some teams to watch out for as dark horses in the Big Ten, watch them. It is super competitive for sure. Fuller is full of it. Where are you, Danny? Stick up for yourself. Duke's playing great basketball. Since Sonia wants to bring up Duke, we'll go to the ACC next. John Shire. Listen, I compare the fortunes of Duke and UNC, North Carolina, hand in hand, right? The last 4 years since Coach K retired. Why can't I think of? Isn't that terrible? I'm having one of those 65-year-old moments. I can't remember Carolina's coach who retired. How do you forget one of the great coaches in college basketball? It'll come to me. Don't worry. But Hubert Davis and John Shire both having to replace Legends Williams. Thank you. If somebody posted it, thank you. If I got it on my own. John Shire has had the best of this. Yes, Hubert Davis had a really nice run to the Final Four his first year, but really 3 of the 4 years have been below par. 2 of the 4, if you want to consider. That team wasn't doing all that well. They had a great run through a great kick for 3 weeks to get into the Final Four that year. Really struggled 2 years ago. Better last year. This year, they're really kind of struggling again. 11-6 in conference. Playing a little bit better recently with 4 wins in a row. But right now, they'd be on the outside looking in my mind. John Shire, on the other hand, this team has gotten better and better and better each year that he's been there. This team has been playing as well as anybody in college basketball since Thanksgiving. 1 loss to Clemson a couple of weeks ago. Clemson team that I told you now has played their way into the tournament and has kind of flipped the script because in the past few years, they've been much better early in the season than late. So great job there. Louisville now second in the conference at 15-2, playing really good basketball. 6 straight wins. They'll be in the tournament. And after that, you got Wake, SMU. I think SMU belongs in a tournament before Wake, quite frankly, but they're both 11-5 in conference, 19-8, 20-7. Then you're down at Carolina, still alive, and again, the name will carry some weight in that tourney selection committee room. Why I'm talking like William Shatner, I don't know. Stanford's had a good year, their first year in the ACC. The rest of the league is down. This league is not as good as it's been. They'll probably get more than the 3 bids I said. They'll probably get a 4th bid because somebody of Wake Forest, SMU, or North Carolina is going to get a bid, depending on, unless they all flame out early in the tournament, the conference tournament, they should get a bid. Sure, the 15 pages. Thank you so much. I don't know about the best content on the net, but I have the best. I have the best viewers and followers on the net. I can tell you that. Well, you have great ones too, Sony. Everybody on the National Streaming Sports Network does, but you guys are the best, and that's why my shows go. Yes, always comparable teams, even Smith and Kay. Dean Smith. Yeah, Dean Smith was a great coach. And again, Coach Williams was no slouch of his own. Had 2 great careers, one at Kansas and one at North Carolina. It's tough to replace those guys. And it's tough to be a former player and come in and be that guy, in my mind. I mean, John Shire's done it very well at Duke. Other guys have struggled in that situation. You see Penna Hardaway playing much better, or the team's playing much better this year. Trouble coming back to his alma mater and being the head coach and getting him to play consistent basketball. Mike Davis at Indiana struggled. It's always tough to be in that position. And Hubert Davis gets that extension to 2030. Surprised me a little bit, but more power to him. And it's Sonia says they just extended Hubert's contract. I'm a little surprised, but look, it's a tough gig, man. Being the guy to replace the guy. It is true. SMU is sneaky good. I agree. I think I still think SMU makes the tournament unless they go. I can't make that one out. You're the best, Sonia. Thank you. Yeah, I've said all year long, I thought SMU's first year in the ACC, they've done very well, moving from the AAC. Don't mix those leagues up. In fact, I think the newcomers in this league, it's funny, SMU and Stanford have played better than some perennial powers in the ACC, better than Florida State. Leonard Hamilton retiring after the season after a lot of years at Florida State and a bunch of years at Miami before that. Pittsburgh, Jeff Capel's probably in trouble there. Virginia's been bad after Tony. Here we go again. Coach Tony left. Syracuse has been awful since Jim Boeheim's retirement. Adrian Autry may get one more year, but I'd be shocked. He supposedly got a pretty good recruiting class coming in. But the worst thing, and I say it every single week when we talk about college basketball, the worst single thing to ever happen to Syracuse was the demise of the Big East. It was a death knell for Syracuse. It's been a death knell for Boston College. Miami, except for a couple of years, Jim Larragara walks away this year. The team's only got 2 wins in conference. It just has not worked out. And now Rick Pitino, by the way, who's revived St. John's and done a tremendous job there, is floating the idea, and whether anybody will bite, I don't know, that if the Big East and the ACC want to compete, and this has got to be a hard pill for the ACC to swallow as well, if they want to compete, they need to merge. Don't see it happening. What are you going to have, a 25-team league? Or are you going to leave some of the near-to-well teams behind? Rick, good afternoon. Are you out in Hawaii? We are just about to enter March Madness. And we got about a week and a half of the regular season left. And then we got conference tournaments, which I'll tell you what, those couple weeks of conference tournaments to me are as good or better than March Madness. I love March Madness. Don't get me wrong. Love it. Being the NCAA tournament. But March Madness really begins before that, right? With the conference tournament play. And I think that's the best 2 weeks or so of the college basketball season. Because there's where you see some teams rise up and steal bids. It's still an exciting time of the year, for sure. Are you out in Hawaii, Rick? Who's your team? I don't know. I'd love to know. I'm not even sure. I guess Sonia's team is Duke from what I see there. Who else is here? Ralph is a Pittsburgh fan. I'm looking at some of the other people that have been in here. Danny, we know, is a UCLA fan. Although, hello, Rick Sherlock. Rick is I believe, also a Bulldog fan, a Georgia Bulldog fan in basketball. I know he's not as big a basketball fan as football, but Georgia with that big win over Florida, I think they're better than the second four out. I think right now Georgia is on the cusp of possibly being in the tournament, which will jump right now, I guess, to the SEC and talk about that. The SEC looking at, again, just to go back to Lenardi's bracket, right? Right now, he's got 13 teams from the SEC, which would be a record. I believe 11 is the record set by, I want to say, the Big 12. 10 from the Big 10, 8 from the Big 12, 4 from the Big East, 4 from the ACC, 3 from the Mountain West, always underrated. Utah State could be a tough out in this tournament as well. The WCC would be Gonzaga, who's really had a down year under Mark Few. St. Mary's, though, who's won the regular season title there, will have to probably beat Gonzaga most likely one more time in a conference tournament. St. Mary's is a team to watch out for here down the stretch. But let's look at the SEC, and you guys can put up any comments about anything you want, and we'll certainly get back to them for sure. And before I do this, I'll go back and do some more comments. But I'm going to move on to the SEC. Let me get myself set there, and then I'll go to some comments. It's funny. It's so much harder in football following the conferences because there's not 11 conferences. There's like 22, 26. Yes, sir, on Oahu. Good to have you with us, my friend. Are you a Rainbow fan? Are they still the Rainbows? I don't even know. I think they are. Because you never know. We could be offending Rainbows, I guess. We might have to change the name, so I don't really know where we are there. Let us know who you root for, my friend. And please like and follow the show. We're happy when we get new followers and we get new people participating on the shows. I love it. Sonia says, aloha, Rick. She was just out there in Hawaii for her 50th. We don't want to talk about age on this show, Sonia. Just turned 50 myself 15 years ago, but quiet. Rick may have subscribed via me. Oh, that's good. I shared my contact info about the network while I was in Hawaii. Well, that's interesting. Cool. Rick says he takes his March Madness starting in all conference championships leading into the big dance. I'm not a huge fan. I love the big dance, obviously. The NIT has lost a lot of luster for me, and there's one other. I think we still play one other lower tier tournament. When I was growing up, and I hate to be that guy, again, early 70s, even into the 80s, the NIT was still a big deal. There was a time when the NIT was the tournament, the 50s. There was a time in, I think it was 1970, I want to say, Al McGuire had the number one team in the country and refused to go to the NCAA tournament and went to the NIT. But since we've gone to 68 teams in the NCAA tournament, which they want to expand more, and I really strongly would recommend we don't. The NIT has really lost some luster. I mean, it's good that some of these mid-majors get to go someplace when they don't get invited to the NCAA. But when I was a kid, man, you saw some really good basketball teams. I mean, because there was 24 teams getting into the NCAA tournament, then 32. But, you think about the fact that when there was 24 teams, there was a lot of really good teams that could go to the NIT. We saw some really interesting stuff. We saw Tiki Burden in Utah go there in the early 70s. Tiki Burden, who played right here locally in Schenectady at Philip Schuyler. Sienna, locally here, playing in the MAC, went to the NIT and nearly won when Mike Dean was here back in, I want to say the late 80s. Still a good tournament at that point. But anyway, Sonia says hello to Rick. You got last four out, last four into the big dance. Let me go to Lenardi's and I'm going to give you mine, right? My last four in, Rick, right now would be, boy, and here's the thing, you got to remember something. I don't like teams with losing records in conference getting in this tournament. So I'm giving you SMU. These are my last four. Hang on, I got to check one thing here. SMU, Xavier, bear with me. I want to check one more thing before I speak. George, I'm going to have a hard time getting in because they're 5-10 now. So SMU, Xavier, it's hard for me, man. Wake Forest and Boise State. We froze again. Hopefully you guys heard all that. Hang on. We're going to have to reboot. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. If we didn't get that, SMU, Xavier, Boise State, Wake Forest. First four out, North Carolina, Indiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. That's my first four out. Exactly. You are the Warriors now. They were the Rainbow one time, weren't they? So what do we do? We offended. I mean, Marquette had to change their name from Warriors, or was Hawaii always a Warriors? Help me out. I seem to remember them being a Rainbow. I don't know why I remember that, but because they had the rainbow on their helmet, didn't they? In football, obviously, they don't wear helmets in basketball. So apparently, some Rainbows got offended. We're back to Sonia. I'm young. I'm a young 65. Yes, I am. I mentioned this audience hasn't heard. I've kind of hinted around about this for the last, I don't know, 6 months or maybe more. But now that my entire team at work knows I'll be retiring in August, I have only 182 days, 5 hours, 19 minutes to go. That's counting weekends, so it's really more like 150 days. Plus, I'm going to take about 10 weeks vacation between now and August 31st. No, I'm not taking 10 weeks vacation, but we'll take some time. So we're officially going to retire in August. My wife just wants me to retire. She doesn't want me to die sitting at this desk, and I don't plan on doing so. I love my job still, but it's time to go. And NIT certainly phase. Yeah. If you love college basketball and you got to have a fix, it's fine. SMU, again, right now, Lenardi's got them in their first four out. So, and Lenardi's pretty good at this, man. Let me see what, let me go to the, let's go to let's see where. Yeah, even the Athletic has got them in the first four out as well. It's pretty close to the same thing. They've got Wake out. Their last four in would be Arkansas. I'm not buying it. San Diego State, Ohio State, losing record in conference, and Georgia, by the way. Interesting. Georgia with that big win. They also have the SEC with 14 teams in. What happens? Whoa. You heard it. I have said it on a few of my shows. Some of this audience hasn't heard it. SMU, Xavier, Wake Forest, Boise State. Thank you, my friend. I try to think outside the box. I really have a hard time with all these. And I know I keep repeating it. All these teams. Some of the. I mean, we're talking about Georgia 5-10 in the conference. Now, yes, that's a huge win they had over number 3 Florida the other night, but I just can't get past the fact that if you can't finish 500 in your conference, I've said this year after year. It never froze? Interesting. All right, well, that's good to know because that's happened to me my last 3 shows. Thank you to Sonia for the update. Cold Carolina out first. Yeah, I have them on the first 4 out. Lenardi has them in the first 4 out. Where's the and also the Athletic has them the first 4 out as well. Oh, it used to be called the Rainbows. I thought so. We still say the Bows. So it's funny that they changed their name to the Warriors when, again, that was offensive, apparently, when Marquette had to change their name. I grew up a Marquette fan because I was a big Al McGuire fan. And they had to change their name from the Warriors to the Golden Eagles. So it's an interesting change from me, and I guess I approve. I look 48. Good grief. I wish I looked 48. Thank you for that, by the way. Oh, man. Thank you, Sonia. If only I was 48. I'm like my dad. I just celebrate anniversaries of my 39th birthday. So I've been 39. Soon I'll be 39 26 times. Nice. Where was I? I was looking at the conferences, wasn't I? Oh, this is a fun show. Let's look at the SEC. We got some other news we can talk about, too, by the way. Tom Izzo passing Bob Knight as the biggest winner in a Big Ten history. Gambling issues at New Orleans and Fresno State. Sign of the times, man. You get in bed with gamblers. This is what happens, especially with kids. We've seen it more than once. Temple last year. Nothing really came of those allegations, but, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now New Orleans and Fresno State have got issues. We talked about Hubert Davis's extension. We talked about Dusty May's extension. Utah fires their coach Smith after 4 years. They're supposedly... there's an NBA assistant that may already have that job. We can talk about some college football news, too. George is talking about how much they're going to spend on athletes next year in pay-for-play money. Not NIL, but pay-for-play. There's some news. The commissioners have been meeting, and supposedly the SEC and the Big Ten have met on their own about what they want to happen. They are going to have all the say, by the way, in what happens in the football tournament, just so you know. We'll talk more about that stuff if time allows. But let me get back through these conferences a little bit. You guys have been great so far. Don't stop with those comments. Keep them coming. The SEC, 14 teams is what the Athletic has. Let me see if I can get the 14. Auburn's definitely in. Alabama's definitely in. Florida's definitely in. Tennessee, Missouri, A&M, Ole Miss, Kentucky. That's 8. Every other team. So I'm going to put 6 teams, by the way. You just heard me screaming and yelling about this. I'm going to put 6 teams in with losing conference records if I put 14 teams in. Mississippi State could still finish 500. That's 9. I'll put 5 teams in if I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Vanderbilt could still finish 500. Unlikely. My God. 9. Vanderbilt, 10. Arkansas, 11. Texas, 12. Georgia, 13. And Oklahoma, 14. 4 and 10 in conference are going to put them in the NCAA tournament. Porter Moser, by the way, I think a bit of a hot seat at Oklahoma. Not buying it. And South Carolina, man, has fallen on some hard times. 1 and 14, 11 and 17 overall. Seems like just a few. South Carolina was in this Final Four with just It feels like twice in the last few years. Sad. We've got a lot of South Carolina fans around here too, so or follow the show. Let's look at some of the other conferences real quick, and then we'll go to some other conversation, and we'll see how long we go tonight. As long as you guys are commenting and we're interactive, we'll do it. We'll go through all the conferences quick and see if there's maybe a team to kind of watch as a sleeper in March in the big tournament. The Atlantic Sun, I'm not seeing anybody really as a danger there. I think North Alabama actually will win this tournament and get the victory. Maybe Florida Gulf Coast. The American East, don't see any dangers here. You're going to see either Bryant or Vermont in the tournament. So American Athletic Conference, there's probably going to be one bid from this conference. That's kind of a bit of a shock. Memphis is probably going to get that. There'll be two bids if Memphis doesn't win the conference tournament. North Texas is probably the second best team there. They're in second place. UAB's 11-3 in conference. Then you really drop off after that. It's possible they sneak in a second bid. We'll see. Again, this is an example where it's possible Memphis wins this tournament, wins the regular season, wins the conference tournament. They get one bid. I'd rather see a team like Texas, North Texas, or UAB rewarded rather than a 4-10 in conference, or maybe worse by the time we get there, Oklahoma team. What's going on behind me here? That's a light behind my green screen that's causing that problem. Anyway, Atlantic 10, again, a bit of an underrated league. George Mason is a team that watch for. I almost put them in my last four in. They're 12-2 in the A10. They're 21-6 overall. VCU is the best team in that league at 23-5, 13-2 overall. You got Loyola at 9-5, 18-9. VCU is always a dangerous team when they get into the tournament. George Mason, remember, 2005, 2004, Jim Larangar, who just quit in the middle of the season, unable to deal with all the nonsense of NIL and all this other stuff, after taking Miami to the Final Four here just a couple of years ago, resigned. He led George Mason out of nowhere to the Final Four, I want to say 20 years ago, in one of the bigger surprises in NCAA history. I'd rather see a team like that rewarded than some of these teams that are going to finish 5 and 6 teams under 500 in their conference. The Atlantic Coast Conference, we already talked about. Duke's in, Louisville's in, Clemson is in. Then it becomes, are they going to get a 4th seed? Probably. I like Wake Forest to be among that group. I think they get a 5th seed and get SMU in there. And maybe even North Carolina. Should North Carolina be, again, we know the ACC is down this year, but should we really just eliminate North Carolina, SMU, Stanford, with winning records in the ACC and pretty good records overall? I mean, decent records overall, and reward some of these teams that finish, 12th and 14th in the SEC. And the way we're going to fix this is not to fix the committee and how they select teams. They're going to just expand the tournament. Crazy. Big 12, Houston's in, Arizona's in, Texas Tech is in, Iowa State's in. Iowa State with an outside shot maybe of a number 1 seed. I doubt it. They'd have to win this tournament and get some help elsewhere. BYU is in. Kansas is going to get in, but they're on a free fall the wrong way, man. They did win their last couple of games, but they've fallen out of the top 25. TCU, Baylor on the fringes. Again, probably these teams are being counted as in. What I say before, 12 teams, or was it 12 or 10? Only 8 from the Big 12. Well, that's good, because that means they don't have some of these teams. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, we're still going to get 2 under 500 teams potentially from the Big 12. Very, very mediocre TCU, Baylor, West Virginia teams all still alive. Big East, St. John's fighting for that number one seed. I will predict right now that if St. John's wins the Big East tournament, they will be a number one seed. And they are built to go a long ways in this tournament. Really good guard play. They got some guys that have played at a really high level. Rick Pitino, certainly a very seasoned tournament coach. He'll be the first coach to get 6 different teams into the NCAA tournament. Is that right? BU, Providence, Kentucky, Louisville, Iona, St. John's, 6 teams. Creighton should be in. Marquette should be in. UConn's had some struggles, but I'm putting UConn in this tournament. I'm putting Xavier in this tournament. 10-7 in the league, 18-10 overall. I'm going to leave them on the outside looking in as a first 4 or second 4 out and take these other teams, finish 12th. Even Villanova's over 500 in the Big East. I understand it's not the SEC. Big Sky's going to be a one-team tournament. Watch out. Montana's a team that could surprise somebody in the first round. Big South, High Point, big story last year had a really good team. Went out in their conference tournament and didn't make the NCAA tournament. They're 25-5 this year. I think it was Winthrop that knocked them out last year. They're 9-5. UNC Asheville, 11-3. Love to see High Point get into their first NCAA tournament. 10 in a row they've won. Big Ten we've already talked about. Big West. UC Irvine is a team that a lot of people have talked about having a really good chance if they got into the tournament of winning a game or two. Excuse me. They've fallen back a little bit. They do have 3 losses, 13-3 in conference, 25-3 overall. Second place now to UC San Diego. Coastal Athletic Conference, going to be a one-bid league, most likely UNC Wilmington or Townsend. Conference USA, 1 bid. I like Liberty to win this conference, by the way. Horizon League, 1 bid. I like Cleveland State. Robert Morris right now is leading that. I like Cleveland State to come out of that conference tournament. The Ivy League, we'll talk more about the conference tournaments the next couple of weeks for sure. I do see some comments here, sorry. UH Rainbows changed the name to the Warriors when June Jones. I remember June Jones. Listen, I had June Jones all set up to come on the 101 with Keith Engle show, and he had to tape it because he's out in Hawaii, obviously. And the day came and June didn't show. June, I still want you on the show. Really interesting character, and I'm glad you mentioned his name because I'm going to reach back out to him tonight to see if we can schedule something and get him on the one-on-one with Keith Engle show. So anyway, June Jones became the head coach or the D1 UH football team of, I think you mean. He took the UH Warriors football to the All-State Sugar Bowl, got a spanking. I do remember that. June Jones, a really good football coach. Resurrected Hawaii, went to SMU and resurrected that program. And he's an interesting character as well. And, yeah, Rick, St. John's has not been relevant. They haven't been ranked in the top 10 in about, 26 years, something like that. Maybe longer than that. I'm sorry. I said 26. It might be since like 1989. They haven't been to the tournament, but 3 times since 1989. Really playing good basketball. The Ivy League, Yale looks to be the cream of that crop this year, 11-0. Not a team I would say could do some danger like we've looked at in the past. Harvard when Tommy Amaker was coaching them, and Princeton in years back were always dangerous teams. I don't think they're going to get a team this year. The Metro Atlantic, where Siena plays now, Siena's not playing very well. Iona, perennial powerhouse, not playing very well. Marist is at 13-3, 20-5. Quinnipiac is second. One of those teams is going to get this bid, I think, and win the conference tournament. They should do something smart, by the way, the MAC, and get this tournament back in Albany because they packed this place, 11 or 12,000 people. They play in Atlantic City. They play out in Buffalo and play in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people. It's ridiculous. Doubt we got much of a thing to worry about from anybody in that conference in the tournament. The Mid-American Conference, Akron's 14-1, 22-6. Miami at 12-3. Watch out for Toledo, I think, in that tournament. Maybe as an outsider, but with no tournament dark horses here in my mind. Norfolk State in the Mid-Eastern Atlantic, 10-1, 20-8 overall. Drake, this is where Missouri Valley probably going to get one bid. This is another place where there's always a couple, 3 teams that are really good, and one team gets in. Once in a while, they'll sneak a second team in. This is a mid-major that should be rewarded, because if Drake doesn't win this conference tournament, they've got to get in my mind. That would be a bid stealer. Somebody knocks them off. Northern Iowa, Bradley, both good basketball teams. I think this team should be looking at 2 bids anyway. The only way they get 2 is if Drake loses the tournament. And Drake is a team to watch out, possibly win a game or 2 in the big dance, to use Rick's term. Mountain West, always underrated. New Mexico, Rick Pitino's son, doing very good things there, 14-3, 22-6. They have lost 2 in a row. They have faltered each of the last couple, 3 years under Richard Pitino late in the season. We'll see if they cannot wilt this time. Utah State playing really good basketball. Both these teams could win a game in the NCAA tournament. Colorado State has a chance to get in. San Diego State has a chance to get in. Boise State. They could have 5 bids. And again, I can make a case for these 5 teams getting in rather than, a 4-10 and a 5-10 team in the SEC. Northeast Conference, Central Connecticut, LIU, going to be the champion there, one of them. Ohio Valley, Southern Missouri State, I would say. The other team that might surprise somebody. The Patriot League. You got American and Bucknell fighting it out. Army at 10-7, 16-3. Not a bad season for the Black Knights. We already talked about the SEC. The Southern Conference, a 1-bid tournament. Watch out for UNC Greensboro here in my mind. The Southland, we got McNeese State, 17-1, 23-6. Probably going to win that conference, although Lamar is 13-5 in conference. Southwestern Conference, Southern, 13-1. This team will be the prohibitive favorite to win their tournament. It's going to be a 1-bid league. No upsets I see coming from there. The Summer League, Omaha, 12-3, 18-12. I think they'll probably get the bid there. Sunbelt, James Madison, not quite the story they were a year ago. 13-4 in conference, 20-10 overall. Troy, these are the prohibitive favorites in this tournament. You could see one of those. I could see James Madison upsetting somebody in the first round if everything broke right. West Coast Conference, Gonzaga in a down year for them, unranked, 13-4 in conference, 22-8 overall. St. Mary's a big story here, 15-1, beat Gonzaga twice. This is a team to watch out for as a sleeper. They could be as high as a 4. They'll probably be a 5 or 6 seed in the tournament. They could get to a 4, I suppose, if they run the table through their conference tournament. It's a team to watch out for. Well coached, good defense, veterans, and really good guard play. The question is going to be, can they put the ball in the basket enough? Gonzaga will get in. That'll probably be it. But again, San Francisco, again, they might be worthy of being in, but we're not even talking about them. Utah, sorry about that. Utah Valley in the Western Athletic Conference, Grand Canyon, they're going to be one of the 2 teams that get in. Absolutely. I don't know what we're talking about, but St. John's probably being scary. St. John's is very scary. This is the best time, man, because I just went through all these conferences. Anything can happen here. That's why conference tournament week, as Rick and I were talking about early, and Sonia's kind of alluded to as well. It is an exciting 2 weeks, maybe more so than the big dance itself sometimes. And I'll say this, Sonia, they're not sneaky good. They're really, really good. They're scary good. This is a team, and Rick Pitino. You can say whatever you want about Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino is one of the great college basketball coaches of all time. He's turned programs around everywhere he's gone. BU was no good before he got there. He takes them to the NCAA tournament. Providence was a team that was good 10 years before he got there. He rides a mediocre player like Billy Donovan to the Final Four. He goes to, and then he spent some time with the Knicks and some time with the Celtics. And, he goes to Kentucky. Kentucky was down. They just gotten through being on probation when Coach Sutton was there. And he turns that team around in a couple of years. Loses that great Sweet 16 game, our Elite 8 game, to Duke. You'll see a lot about that. And if you watch the 30 for 30, I hate Christian Laettner. I'm not a big ESPN fan, as you know, because a lot of lies I've heard them tell over the years about one of my favorite football teams. My favorite football team. Anyway, that said, they do some great stuff with the 30 for 30s. And I hate Christian Laettner. There's a couple of really good basketball ones. Survive and Advance. It's a story of the 1983 North Carolina State Jim Valvano team. Requiem for the Big East, which is about the founding of the Big East. Dave Gavitt and a bunch of other athletic directors getting together and forming the Big East. A turning point in college basketball history. I hate Christian Laettner. Is a great 30 for 30 documentary. And there's a couple others as well. There's one about the Fab Four. Just some great stuff. If you're a college basketball fan, you got to check out these documentaries. They're so good. What else is going on? Is there any other news we should chat about? We got some games coming up. Let's take a look at some of the big games coming up, too. Let me look at college football real quick, which we have not talked about at all. I had it up here, but now I lost it. Where'd it go? What's going on in college football? A lot of GMs being hired, if you haven't noticed. GMs, hiring a general manager to manage the NIL, to manage the transfer portal. This is a new thing now. Jim Nagy's been hired at Oklahoma. We know that Lombardi was hired by Bill Belichick at UNC. The basketball programs are doing the same thing. The same day we had the extension for Hubert Davis was the announcement that they hired former NBA, I should say, basketball agent Jim Tanner to be their GM. So this is a new thing. In football, Andrew Luck is going to be Stanford's GM on the football side. So the world's a changing, man. What else? We're waiting on some college football playoff changes. I think the one change you'll see maybe as soon as next year will be changing the seeding. No more giving automatic buys to the conference winners. Stick more with the top 4 ranked teams. It was very confusing for people last year because you'd rank them one way, then you seeded them another. And it also led to some weird things like Oregon having a tougher draw. Oregon, who was ranked number 1, having a tougher draw than Penn State or Notre Dame. It doesn't make sense. But they're looking to potentially change that. There's also a lot of talk, and it probably won't happen until the new contract will be signed, which would be after the 26th season, I believe, or for the 26th season, going to 14 or 16 teams. The Big 12 and the Big 10 are going to be in charge of this right now. Up until now, any changes had to be voted on by all the presidents or the ADs. I'm not really sure of all the power conferences plus Notre Dame. That was 6 until the Pac-12 went away. We don't know what their designation will be going forward, but it isn't going to matter because right now the after this contract is over, that's done, and the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be able to pretty much put in whatever they want, and they're going to kill this tournament in my mind probably because they're going to go to 14 teams, they're going to go to 16 teams, and they're going to get themselves 4 automatic bids each, and to me, that's just ludicrous because you're going to have some horrible matchups when that happens. And again, now it becomes we had this argument on this, and it's ironic that it's the SEC that's pushing this way because I said this would happen. I used to have this argument about the playoff in general expanding. On this very show, John DeLong, who used to come in a lot, big SEC fan, big LSU fan. We hope John's okay because we have not seen him this entire college football or college basketball season. So, John, if you're out there, we hope you're okay and just got mad at me or you're busy with something else. But he used to say, oh, it'll be a participation tournament, which I said no. Again, the way around this being a participation trophy tournament is to invite all the league champions. 16 teams. Here I'm going to get sued again by Basement Bob. This is not my idea, just one I advocate. 16 teams. 10 conference champions. There's only 10 conferences. All the conference champions get in. And by the way, do away with the conference playoff games. Regular season champions, 10 of them get in. You got 6 at-large bids. That's all you need. I got a real tournament for the championship with that. Scott Colby's with us tonight. How are you, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Or better. Scott says he's got a ticket for St. John's to the Final Four along with Missouri. If I had to make a prediction right now, and I got to wait a little bit, Scott, I do like St. John's getting to the Final Four. Let me look at this bracket here real quick if I can. Hang on one second. Let me get back to my bracket. I think Missouri's got a really good chance. If they can rebound and play well through the SEC championship, maybe get to that final, pick up a little momentum that they've lost these last couple weeks. Doing great. That's awesome to hear, Scott. Rooting for you, my friend, as you know. Time we got 8:10, not bad. I like St. John's. Again, it's all going to depend on the matchups and how the seeding goes and the brackets go. Today, I would like St. John's. I can see them depending on which region they get sent to. Because they're probably not going to be the number 1 seed in the East. That's probably going to be Duke. I think they got a chance to get a 1 seed that would certainly help them. But the difference between a 1 and a 2 isn't huge in my mind. I can see them getting there. I like Auburn a lot. I like Houston a lot. If they can stay out of there, I'll give you Final Four right now. I'm going to give you Auburn. I'm going to give you. I'm not going to take Missouri, I don't think, Scott. I'm going to take Auburn. I'm going to take Houston. I'm going to take St. John's. So they're kind of fairly chalky, right? And if I had to give you a team to watch out for, how about Clemson? Playing really good basketball right now. I'm also going to tell you St. Mary's is going to win. St. Mary's going to get to at least the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite 8. Depends on the matchups. Again, it's a lot depends on that. But St. Mary's is the one mid-major, if we can still call them. The league's still a mid-major league. Gonzaga, is not a mid-major program anymore. But they're down this year, relatively speaking. I think St. Mary's gets to potentially an Elite 8. I'm going to say Houston, Auburn, St. John's, and I'm going to say Clemson right now. It all depends again. We got to see where a couple sleepers. Clemson's a team to watch out for. I love the three teams I picked them first. Kentucky's really fallen out of favor. Marquette could get it back together, but they need to get some momentum changed here. Louisville's really hot at the moment. Michigan State's another team to watch out for, but that'd be all chalk. So, number one seeds. Right now, I'm going to say Auburn, Duke, definitely. Florida. Here's the thing: Florida and Houston. I don't like Alabama. We already know. We talked about this earlier. I mean, to me, it's going to be either Florida, Tennessee, or Alabama is going to get one of those four seeds. One of them is going to win the SEC championship, I would say, and one of them is going to get one of those number one seeds. Auburn and Duke are locked in, I think, right now. I don't think it matters what they do unless they, lose 6 in a row. I don't think they even got 6 games left, but if they've lost the rest of their last couple regular season games, went out in the first round of the tournament, maybe not. Probably not going to happen. I think Auburn and Duke are very close to locks for a number one seed. The SEC gets the other one, either Florida, Tennessee, or Bama. I'm not crazy about either one. I like Nate Oates a lot. I'm not sure how much I like that team. They blew a big lead against Auburn when they played them the last time. Tennessee still doesn't put the ball in the hoop enough for me. And I'm going to say St. John's plays their way up to a number one seed to go along with those teams. So Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston will be a 2 seed, and St. John's gets in over St. John's in Houston. If they win their tournaments, Houston will probably get in if they both win. I think Houston's got a better chance of losing their tournament than St. John's, though. Scott agrees with St. Mary's, 1,000%. Thank you, Scott. Who won the TGI men's and women's brackets last year? I don't remember who. Was that you, Rick? No, we don't have the brackets yet. We're going to do that again. I got to get, I don't know. Can I set it up now? I'm not even sure. I doubt it. We got to start promoting that, though. We did do, we only had a handful of people in the women's bracket. Looking at the women's poll, though, real quick, I haven't even looked at the women's. We started looking at the women's brackets, or rankings, I should say, before I left for vacation. When I left, UCLA was on top. Now Texas is on top. Notre Dame's right there. USC. UConn with a nice resurgence after a bit of a dip the last 2 years for Gino Auriemma's team. 26-3. South Carolina still strong at 25-3. LSU and whatever that clown's name that coaches them, sorry, ladies, 27-2. Carolina 25-4. NC State 22-5. Any surprises? Any real surprises here? Baylor maybe being 17 and 24-5 might be a surprise. No real surprises. No, I guess really no real surprises there on the women's side. Oh, that'll be interesting too, and we'll get our tournaments brackets going for both again this year. I've said they can play to. I think if they win their tournament, which means they beat Gonzaga most likely 3 times, I think they can play their way to a 4. They could be left in the 5, but to me that'd be important to get to that 4 seed for St. Mary's and avoid that 5-12. So, UConn and the women's are going to win the Natty. It's possible again, rejuvenated this year under Gino. Done a great job in the transfer portal. Texas can't score. Texas women, I haven't watched enough of them to know. I have seen UCLA play, and they're very good. Notre Dame is very good. UConn is very good. And I wouldn't count out South Carolina because this is a team that was this close to a three-peat last year. Still there. We got to see them up close here in Albany. We had a great great regional here in Albany. We had, who was here, Rick? You remember? It was Iowa, South Carolina, LSU, I think, was here, and I don't remember the fourth team. Was LSU here or not? South Carolina, Iowa. Jeez, I want to say it was that clown Rebecca Lobo saying, what else you can do in Albany? But yeah. Oh, what else you guys got? What else on your mind? Throw anything at me, Scotty. Rick, you think your Georgia Bulldogs should be in with a 5-10 record in conference? Scott, what are your thoughts? I don't think you were here when I was going on this rant, so I'll bring it up to because Scott's here commenting. Rick's commenting at the moment. Am I wrong thinking some of these mid-majors that I rattled off, or some of the teams like, let me go back. Some of the teams like, if Drake loses their conference tournament, for instance, they should not be left out of this tournament for 5-10 Georgia or 4-10 Oklahoma. And again, the Athletics got both those teams in the tournament right now. 14 teams from the SEC. Xavier, again, I don't know that they should be left out for a 5-9 Arkansas team. Just throwing a couple of names out there. I mean, there's a lot of examples we could look at. The Big East, we talked about the Big East. The ACC, looking at maybe only 4 bids. SMU should not get in. Am I frozen again? Somebody tell me if I'm frozen. Because oh man, let me take myself out. If I stop my camera, I cannot. Oh, now I'm back. How about that? Oh my God. Anyway, give me your thoughts. That's right. You're a UConn fan. I forgot about that. Sorry about that. I forgot you're a UConn fan. Were you a UConn fan before Andre Jackson went there, Rick, or is that what turned you on there? UConn's in danger of not making this tournament. I think they will, but there's a team too. I guess if I was going to make a futures bet right now, you wanted somebody with some value, I bet you can get UConn. I don't know what they are. Scott, you could probably tell me what they are today. I bet you get some value for that team to win a national championship. That's a type of team. They still got one, I think, the best coach in the country. Actually, Rick Pitino's the best coach in the country. Sorry. Top 5 coaches in the country right now: Pitino, Hurley, Izzo. That's only 3. Sampson and Bruce Pearl. They're the top 5 team coaches in the country for sure. Georgia should not be in with that conference record. I agree. How about? I mean, again, there's several. That's not just them, right? We're talking about Georgia, on, Oklahoma on the bubble, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, maybe Kentucky, with losing records being in. We go up to got to get ready to wrap it up here. But we go up to the Big Ten. You're talking about Nebraska and Ohio State and Indiana, all with losing records. And you're going to leave some really good teams home that had finished second in mid-majors. I just hate it. Frozen and Bucks on call. Huh? What's that? Thank you for that, by the way, Rick. Good to know. I finally got myself, that time I didn't have to take myself at least totally out of the studio. I've always said that a mid-major would say a record of 25-7 should not be overlooked for Power 5 conference team at a sub-500 record. Thank you, Scott Kobe. 100%. Drake has to make the tournament. They get in. I think Drake, to me, there's no way Drake doesn't get in. And I think Drake's another team, by the way, that could win a couple of games in the tournament. But there's no way Drake doesn't get in if they lose their conference tournament. No way. But there's really a couple other teams that, again, you get a High Point, loses in their conference final and finishes, 27-6. Put them in a tournament. It's more interesting to me to see that. Plus 1,900 make the Final Four. That's not a bad flyer to take right there. 8,000 to win it all. That might be worth a $100 bill. Again, I'm not saying they're going to win. I try to look for some value, right? I don't see any sense in risking $100 to make, $300 when a team's got to win 6 games to win it all. If I'm going to risk that $100, I want a payout. I did that with Arkansas a few years ago. Didn't quite pan out. Did that with Notre Dame this year in football. And this is the time, usually a couple weeks before the tournament, I go looking for a value pick. UConn might be it. I'm retiring anyway, Scott. Again, you may not have heard this news. I've been kind of hinting around without saying it out loud because I hadn't let my staff or even my bosses know until they knew right after the holidays. But we just let my staff know last week, so it's now official. I'll be retiring in 182 days. Oops, that's not work days. That's including weekends. So it's really like 150 plus the 10 weeks vacation I'm going to take before then. So Alan Perales will be the new host of all these shows. Alan's too busy. He can't do my shows. Listen, it's about time they threw something for me, man. I've been carrying that freaking place for years. You guys, I haven't been around in a while. I was on vacation and whatnot. I hope the wheelchair races are going well, Scotty. Oh God, you guys are the best. You know what? I got about $120 in my DraftKings account. I may have to go put in a futures bet. I got to check it out. I don't know if UConn's going to be it, but I'm going to look and I'm going to come up with a value pick. And it probably won't be the team I picked to win it all. I know you've been setting up all this. I have. I'm tired of doing this, man. No recognition. I don't get paid. I do it gratis. All I want is a kind word from you guys once in a while. That's all. Quit picking on me because, I'm the youngest guy there. Actually, you're the youngest guy there. I'm going to be 65 years old. Young. 65 years young. Anyway, glad to see you, Scott. Glad you're doing better. Rick, hope you're doing well. I know you appreciate it. Glad you're doing well. We started off slow and we ended up with a pretty good show tonight. A lot of good participation. We talked about a lot of stuff, and I repeated myself about 1,000 times on this whole losing record and conference thing. So I'm glad we had a few people agree with me, Scott Kobe. But we appreciate it. We'll be back Sunday. Remember, Friday. I'm sorry, we'll be back Sunday. We'll be back Friday morning at 9 a.m. The one-on-one with Keith Engle show. There is no interview this week. As the last Friday of every month. Now will be Jim Behringer getting us up to speed on the NHL. We'll talk Four Nations hockey. We'll also let you guys sound off at the same time. That'll be our Friday format, the last Friday of every month, and we'll try to get some interviews. I've been away. I've been a lot of stuff going on at work before I closed down my career there. It'd be a crazy 6 months, I can tell you. But we'll be getting some interviews. I've got some people lined up. I got a reminder from Rick there that I need to get a hold of June Jones again. Some of the people that kind of ghosted me are going to get some phone calls this week. Plus, I've got Gabe Paul's daughter that Robert Butler sent me. Just finished her book, a really good book. I think it's Yankee Princess. Really good. We have some Canadian football players interested in coming on. We got some hockey players interested in coming on. So we just got to get them lined up and knock them down. That's all. So you guys enjoy. Jack is a leader of the home. Jack owns the home. Are you kidding me? He's the best. All right, guys. I appreciate it. You guys have a great night. Keith Engle, TGI Sports Talks, College Sports Huddle. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place, and I'll see you Friday morning with Jim Carrier. Bye-bye.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.